did some research online after last video, and I was looking around at making some spacers for the Crossmember to space out the engine about 1 inch higher. That way we could get some clearance on the Crossmember so we wouldn't have to cut on it anymore. And then I went back to the Legacy GT, which is what the engine came out of, 2010, 2012 model. And I was like, well, what are they using for an engine mount? And it's not a conventional Subaru mount from what I'm used to. It's these guys. And I'll put a link in the description on Rock Auto. But it takes the same 2-prong bolt holes as the engine mount, but it has a single mount for the Crossmember, I should say. And this is the original one. So this would have been found on like a WRX, STI, that kind of stuff. I thought this would work. But this, the cool thing is if you look at them side by side, it's gonna give us that extra inch or so that we need. And so I'm really happy I found these. They really weren't that expensive. We will have to drill these holes out just a little bit to get these to line up in here, but it should sit in just about like that and should give us enough to raise up that engine. So let's give it a shot. So we got the motor mounts on. You can see how far they come down here on each side. So a lot longer than the WRX and the STI one. So let's test fit the Crossmember and see how close we are. So here I'm just trying to find center of the Crossmember, which thanks to Subaru, they actually put a hole there in the middle of the Crossmember. So I'm just verifying that. I'm going to go to the center, then work my way out to each side to drill the appropriate holes for the engine mounts. And then I used a angle to get the appropriate edge for the marking just to verify. That kind of gave me a little straight edge there, as you can see, for marking the line. Just to verify, like I said, once again, that we are working out from center. So I ended up measuring the distance between the engine mount bolts while they were on the engine, and that gave me a really good idea on how far these needed to be spaced out. I believe we went out a little over 8 inches on each side to get the holes in the appropriate location. And here she is all mounted up. We will have to slot the holes a little more, which I've mentioned several times in this video, but we'll get a die grinder out and slot those out. And then what I'll also do once we come back to the final version of this Crossmember is we will put some plates underneath it, just as the factory did on the factory mounting holes, just to really beef up that area. All right, we have the engine hoist all set up. I finally found my engine hoist angle tool, which is pretty cool. I guess that's what you call it. I really don't know what this thing's called. But anyways, this allows you to adjust the angle of the engine once it's in the engine bay. Mainly it's used for mating the engine to the transmission because of the angle, but I like this because I have 4 points of contact here on the engine. And we've used really strong points of contact. Don't use any little small bolts or anything. Try to use the biggest mounting contact that you can. What I'm gonna do now is lower the car a little bit. A couple videos ago, maybe it was last video, I installed the pinch weld jacks. And so I'm gonna lower those to the lowest point possible. That way we don't have to raise this up as much. So I'm just lowering the dollies to its lowest point. That way we can get the front end as low as possible so we don't have to raise the engine up with the engine hoist too far. I really don't like doing that. It always makes me feel kind of uncomfortable when the engine's hanging 4 or 5 feet up in the air. So trying to get the car as low as I can. That way we can get the engine in safely. All right, so we've got the car as low as we can. It's in a safe position. We've got the wheels chalked and everything in the back, and then we've also got the lockers on the little dollies. So the idea here is we're just gonna raise this engine in, and then from the bottom we'll put in our crossmember. And I went ahead and got the subframe bolts out so we know where this crossmember is supposed to go. So we'll put those in, and then we'll test fit this engine. Let's put the crossmember in real quick. All right, so I ended up taking out the master cylinder and all that to give us some more room. So let's see if we can get this guy in here. The engine's in, and it's amazing that it's in. I'm super excited for this. This is really a dream come true, something I've been thinking about for a decade now. So let me give you a little overview. There she is, all in there. Really have a lot more room in the front than I thought we would, so that's really good. The back here, plenty of room, transmission, and all that. Now, of course, it's not in its final resting place with the angle and all that. We will have to figure that out once the transmission's in there, but you can see how those motor mounts down there really worked out for us. And then over here, we're close. I mean, we might, there is literally, you might be able to fit a piece of paper between that bolt and that valve cover. So it's not resting on it, but it's close. So there might be some notching that we'll have to do. We'll have to see. But the way it's in here now is it's you can see there's a little bit of wiggle room. Of course, it's just mounted on the 2 engine mounts. So, but she's in there, guys. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up this video. This is a huge milestone for me and for the project. I was really worried that this engine wasn't gonna fit in here at all, and that we were just gonna have to cut and cut and cut all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't look like we're gonna have to do that. There's gonna be a little cutting, but that's okay. Was planning to do that anyways. But I'm happy to say that the engine is in, and I'm really, really happy. So let me give you a little quick review, real quick, and then we'll call it for today. Got the support bar on from Harbor Freight, which is a good tool to have. And the engine is in. I really want to show you the bottom here. Hopefully you can see. Look how flush that is. So that is the manifold there, and that's the turbo. So you can see how flush that is here in the car. We're gonna have plenty of room up front for a radiator. We'll figure out the intercooler situation later. Back here, looks like we're gonna have plenty of room, hopefully for the transmission as well. That'll be the next plan of attack. And everything looks good. I do think we will notch here and here, down here, because I know there's gonna be a little bit of movement and I don't want it bashing on the frame rails. Another thing I mentioned in the previous video is there is a mount up here, or at least a mounting point, which was how it was mounted in the Legacy. I believe we will be able to weld a bar or something across here, or maybe even make a little mount off the front here. That'll help that, and that'll really help the pitch movement there. So like I say, guys, I'm super thrilled. This is a huge milestone for the build, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. See you in the next video.